The morning I walked into Hartwell Plaza with Bo, I wasn't looking for trouble. I was looking at the grout lines in the east lobby tile, had been separating since January. And the brass kickplate on the main entrance, somebody had scratched badly with a dolly the week before. 22 years I'd been doing maintenance walkthroughs on buildings I owned, quietly through holding companies with names that meant nothing to anyone. Crane and Holloway, RCC Properties, the Hartwell Trust. That was how I preferred it. Let the lawyers handle the letterhead. Let me handle the grout. Bo was with me, as he always was on Tuesdays. He's a big dog, amber-coated, wide-chested, somewhere between a lab and a mystery, and he has the unhurried disposition of a creature who has never, once doubted he was loved. Claire found him at the county shelter 11 years ago. She brought him home in the back seat of her car, his enormous head on her lap the whole drive, and she looked at me across the kitchen and said, "I think he needed us." She was right, the way she was right about most things. She passed 2 years later and Bo stayed. He's 8 now, a little gray at the muzzle, still convinced that every lobby in the city belongs to him. He padded across the marble floor with the confidence of a senator, sniffing the base of a column while I crouched to check the grout with my thumbnail. The lobby was quiet at 8:15, few early arrivals swiping badges at the turnstiles, a security guard I knew named Hector giving Bo a small nod of recognition. "Excuse me." The voice came from across the atrium, heels on marble, brisk and carrying. I straightened up. A woman in a charcoal suit was crossing the floor toward me, late 40s, dark hair, a tablet under one arm, and the practiced expression of someone who had spent years managing things and people she considered beneath her attention. "Is that your animal?" "Yes, ma'am." I kept my voice easy. "This is a Class A corporate lobby," she said, stopping a few feet away. "We have tenants on 32 floors. There are people in this building with severe allergies. And there are standards, aesthetic standards, that a maintenance contractor should know without being told." She looked at Bo the way you'd look at a crack in the ceiling you'd somehow missed. "Get it out." I looked down at Bo. He was sitting beside my boot now, looking up at her with no particular offense. "His name's Bo," I said. "He's clean, he's current on his shots, and he's been in this lobby 100 times. "Not anymore," she turned to Hector. "Call the front desk. This contractor's access is revoked as of today. I want the work order canceled." She looked back at me. "Gather your things, please. You don't belong in a building like this." I've been in this business long enough to know when a conversation is over. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't argue. I gave Hector a nod. He looked uncomfortable, good man, and I walked Bo back out through the brass doors into the March morning. The scratch on the kickplate caught my eye on the way out. I'd have to send someone else for that. I called my attorney from the truck. Daniel Marsh has handled my affairs for 19 years, and he is the kind of man who sounds permanently unsurprised. "She canceled the maintenance contract," I said. "Said I didn't belong in the building." A pause. "She knows who holds the Hartwell lease." "I doubt it. The lease is through the trust." "Renewal's up in 48 hours, Daniel said. "She'll need your signature." "I know." I sat for a moment. Both had his chin on the center console, watching the street. "Send the file over to their board first thing tomorrow morning. All of it. The ownership structure, the trust, the full chain. I'll come in at 10. I drove home. Owen was at the kitchen table with his laptop when I came in, and he looked up and read my face the way grown children learn to do. "What happened?" I told him. He listened without interrupting. He got that from his mother, and then he leaned back in his chair. "You're going to let it sit overnight?" "Until 10 tomorrow." He thought about that. "Mom would have said that was generous of you." "Your mother was the generous one," I said. "I'm just patient." I fed Bo on the back porch. The evening was cold and clear, and I sat in the old wooden chair Claire used to keep by the door, the one she'd painted a particular shade of blue she said matched a sky she'd seen once in Montana. Bo finished his bowl and came and put his head in my lap, and I sat with my hand on his neck for a while, thinking about the building or the lease or the woman in the charcoal suit, thinking about Claire, mostly, about the way she used to say that most people aren't unkind, they're just not looking. The trick, she said, was not to harden because of them. Trick was to keep looking yourself. I went to bed at 9 and slept well. Daniel met me in the parking structure at 9:50 the next morning. He had a leather folder under his arm, and the calm expression of a man who has delivered surprising news before and has learned to enjoy it quietly. "How do you want to do this?" he said. "Same as always. Steady." We rode the elevator to the 28th floor, where the building's property management offices occupied a corner suite overlooking the river. The receptionist checked our names, blinked once at Bo, and picked up the phone. Margaret Voss met us in the conference room. There were two other people with her. A man in a navy blazer I didn't recognize, and a younger woman who was holding a file folder the way people hold things when they already suspect what's inside. Margaret looked at me, she looked at Bo. Something shifted in her face. Not yet understanding, but the beginning of it, the moment before the ground changes. "Mr. Callum," Daniel said, setting the leather folder on the table and opening it. "I'm Daniel Marsh, counsel for the Hartwell Trust and for RCC Properties, which holds controlling interest in Crane and Holloway Property Holdings." He turned 2 pages toward her. "This is the ownership structure for Hartwell Plaza, Mr. Callum has held majority interest in the building since 2009. The room went very quiet. The kind of quiet that has weight to it. Margaret Voss looked at the pages. She looked at me. A year ago, I might have felt something sharp in that moment. Satisfaction, maybe, or the edge of an old grievance. But I've been at this long enough to know that the moment belongs to no one. It just is. "The lease renewal," I said, "is on page 4. It's a standard 5-year extension at the current rate, with a 2% annual adjustment. I'm prepared to sign it this morning." She found the page. Her hand was very still. "I owe you an apology," she said. Her voice was even. "I'll give her that." "You don't need to," I said. "I appreciate it." I signed the lease. Daniel witnessed it. The younger woman across the table let out a breath she'd apparently been holding since we walked in. I clicked the pen closed, and then I looked at Margaret Voss. "One thing," I said. "Not a condition of the lease stands regardless, but I want you to know." I looked down at Bo, who was sitting beside my chair in the exact posture of a creature who belongs wherever he is. "This dog was a gift from my late wife. He's been in this lobby since before you took this position. He'll keep coming in on Tuesdays." I looked back at her. "That's not a legal requirement. It's just the truth." She nodded. Something in her face had changed. Not broken, but open. I shook Daniel's hand in the lobby on the way out. Bo walked ahead of us across the marble, unhurried, his nails a quiet rhythm on the floor, his big amber head moving with the ease of an animal that has never once doubted he was loved. Hector was at the security desk. He caught my eye as we passed, and he gave me a small nod, the kind that means more than it looks like. I nodded back. Scratch on the kick plate was still there on the way out. "I'd send someone Tuesday." Claire would have noticed the scratch, too. She noticed everything. The small things that held the world together. The things that needed a patient hand and a little time, and someone willing to show up and do the work without needing anyone to know. That was what she taught me. That's what Bo still teaches me. Every morning, when he puts his chin on my knee and waits with the perfect confidence of a creature who has been faithful and expects faithfulness back. I opened the truck door. Bo climbed in, turned twice and settled. I started the engine, and we drove home in the March light, the city moving around us, quiet and unhurried, the way I've always liked it best.